Okay, I want you to just, for a second, close your eyes. Picture a Sunday morning in the Philippines.
Hmm.
And I don't mean, a quiet, contemplative scene. I mean energy, real heat.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the jeepneys weaving through traffic. The streets are maybe a little lighter because everyone's already at church. And you walk past one, doesn't matter if it's a huge air-conditioned theater in Manila or a bamboo structure in a province, and the sound just hits you.
It is visceral, isn't it? It's a full band, amps turned up to 11, people are weeping, hands are raised.
Yeah.
It's a faith you can literally feel, like
That-
vibrating in the floorboard.
Exactly. It feels like a total success story. If you just looked at that snapshot, you'd say, okay, the Philippines has made it, spiritually speaking.
Right. Faith is just woven into everything.
Yeah. Politics, taxi rides, conversations at the local shop. But today, we're doing a deep dive into a report that looks at this exact picture and asks a question that, it kind of ruins the vibe a little bit.
It really does. It's the kind of question that just stops the music.
Hmm.
The source material we're looking at today poses this central tension. Is a flourishing church automatically a missional church?
Ooh.
Because you can be loud, you can be full, you can be active, but the report argues that the Filipino church is, and this is a direct quote, awake but standing still.
Awake but standing still.
Yeah.
Wow, that is such a haunting phrase.
Isn't it?
It implies all this potential energy that just isn't going anywhere. So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that paradox. We're looking at a nation that's been a mission field for centuries, receiving friars from Spain, pastors from America, and asking how it pivots. How does it become a mission force?
And this really matters to everyone listening, I think, not just if you're interested in the Philippines. We're talking about a huge geopolitical shift in Christianity.
Yeah.
The center of gravity has moved.
It's not in Europe or the U.S. anymore.
Not at all. It's shifted south and east. So if this sleeping giant actually wakes up and starts moving, well, it changes the global map entirely.
So let's get into that landscape then. If we peel back the layers of that loud Sunday morning, what's actually going on underneath? The report uses a phrase I absolutely love: vibrancy without velocity.
It's a brilliant diagnosis. Just think of a high-performance car.
Okay.
You're in the driveway, you floor the gas, the engine roars, the tachometer's in the red, the car is shaking, but you're in neutral.
All noise, no movement.
That is vibrancy without velocity. There's so much movement, programs, events, services, but there isn't momentum, outward momentum.
And the demographics are a huge part of this, right? I mean, this isn't some dying, gray-haired church like you see in parts of Western Europe.
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
The landscape is incredibly young. It has a youthful pulse. You've got the rise of what the report called megachurch Christianity in hubs like Cebu and Manila. Very polished, very professional.
Right.
And then you have the rural faith, which is deep, it's experiential, community-based. But the critique in the source, it applies to both. The idea that here has become the final destination.
Here, as in the goal is just to make here better.
Precisely. It's all about internal metrics. When church leaders get together, what do they talk about?
Numbers.
Attendance numbers, square footage of the new building, how busy the calendar is.
Right.
These are what the report calls institutional fruit. And look, there's nothing wrong with a full church. A full church is definitely better than an empty one.
Of course, you want people to show up.
You do. But institutional fruit is about gathering. The report argues the church needs to be looking for apostolic fruit.
Apostolic from apostle, meaning.
Sent one, exactly. Apostolic fruit is measured by who leaves, not just by who stays. The argument is that the church is so consumed with managing its own success, keeping the programs running, the lights on, that the Great Commission has become more of a metaphor than a mandate.
It's the country club trap. If the club is really nice and the food is great and all your friends are there.
Why would you ever leave the gates?
Right.
It's comfortable, and comfort is the enemy of movement.
Yeah.
But here's the twist, and this is where I think this deep dive gets really fascinating. The report argues that the Filipino church is actually uniquely qualified to leave those gates.
Okay.
They have what the source calls superpowers.
I love this section. It just flips the script on what we think a missionary even looks like.
It really does.
Because usually, we picture a Westerner, maybe with a pith helmet in the old days, or now with a North Face backpack and a big budget.
Right. Someone with a PhD in theology and a fully funded support account.
Yeah.
But the report argues the Filipino context creates a candidate that's actually, better suited for the modern mission field,
Hmm.
especially in the global south.
Let's break these down. Superpower number one, passion and emotional accessibility.
This goes right back to that Sunday morning image.
Yeah.
Filipino worship is faith that breathes. In the West, faith can become very cerebral. It's about apologetics, academic correctness, head knowledge.
Yeah.
But in the Philippines, there's this emotional accessibility to God. Tears are normal. Loud, desperate prayer is totally normal.
So why is that a superpower on the mission field?
Because in so many unreached parts of the world, think tribal Africa, parts of Latin America, even the Middle East, the culture is visceral. It's heart level. If you come in with a 3-point lecture, you just miss the heart.
You're not speaking their language.
Not at all. But if you come in with a passion that is palpable, that people can feel, that translates. It's magnetic.
That makes a ton of sense. It bridges the gap. But the second superpower is the one that really stopped me in my tracks. The report calls it a theology of suffering.
This is the anti-fragility factor.
Okay.
I mean, we have to be honest. The Filipino faith is forged in a pressure cooker.
Typhoons, earthquakes.
Political corruption, generational poverty. It is not a fragile faith formed in a climate-controlled, comfortable environment. It is a survival faith.
So, practically speaking, how does that actually play out?
Well, imagine a Western missionary in a really difficult place. Maybe the power goes out for a week, or the local police demand a bribe, or a storm hits.
Right, that could be a breaking point.
That Westerner might crumble because their faith has never had to function without a safety net. The Filipino missionary, they say, oh, this is just like a Tuesday back home.
Wow. They have a high pain tolerance.
Immense. They know how to cling to God when systems fail because they've had to do it their whole lives. That resilience is a massive tactical advantage in the 10-40 window, those parts of the world most resistant to the gospel.
You can't send fragile people into hard places.
You can't. You need people who are used to storms.
That is such a powerful reframing. Their disadvantage at home becomes their strategic advantage abroad.
Exactly. And that flows right into the third superpower, radical generosity.
Okay, but you might pause here and say, wait, the Philippines is a developing nation. They don't have the GDP of, say, the U.S. or Germany.
Right. They can't write the massive checks.
Yep.
But the source highlights this paradox of giving from scarcity. It's the whole widow's mite principle. In the Filipino context, generosity is seen as trust, not just a transaction. The report mentions that so often the poor give more freely than the rich.
This is relational.
It is. If a wealthy foreigner comes into a village and hands out cash, that's patronage. It creates a hierarchy.
Right.
But if someone who has very little shares their meal with you, that's friendship, that's solidarity. It opens doors that money just can't buy.
Yeah.
It shows that your security isn't in your bank account, it's in God.
And that leads right to the fourth superpower, which I think kind of wraps it all up, relational culture. The idea of bayanihan.
Bayanihan. You've seen those pictures, right?
Okay.
Of the men lifting a whole hut on their shoulders to move it.
Yeah, moving the whole house together.
That's the visual metaphor for the culture. It's belonging before believing. The West often suffers from this individualized Christianity, me and Jesus, my personal quiet time. In the Philippines, discipleship happens in groups, over meals, in families. The report argues this allows for team-based sending. Instead of sending one lonely person to save the world, you send a community. Or at least you send someone who knows how to build that community instantly, because it's just in their DNA.
So, okay, let's just pause and look at the board here. You've got a church that's passionate, resilient, generous, and hyper-relational.
Right.
They sound like the Navy SEALs of global missions, but here is the sleeping giant part of the conversation. The report pivots to the diaspora, the OFWs.
This is the part that just blows my mind. I mean, if you believe in a God who orchestrates history, you have to look at the overseas Filipino workers phenomenon.
There are millions of them.
Billions of Filipinos working abroad right now. We're talking nurses, engineers, domestic helpers, seafarers.
Everyone.
Everyone. From boardrooms in Singapore to cruise ships in Norway to hospitals in Riyadh, they are literally everywhere. But crucially, and this is the strategic genius of it, they're in closed nations.
Define that for us. What's a closed nation?
So a closed nation is a country where traditional missionary work is illegal or, heavily restricted. You can't get a visa to be a pastor in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
You can't just walk into parts of the Middle East or Asia and say, hey, I'm here to plant a church. You'll be deported, but
you can go as a nurse.
You can go as a nurse, you can go as a nanny, you can go as an engineer, and the Filipinos are already there. They're inside the walls that keep the Western missionaries out.
So they're accidental missionaries.
That's the term the report uses. But here's the heartbreak, and this is where that standing still critique comes back.
Okay.
Currently, these millions of workers are viewed mostly as economic heroes. They're the dollar earners.
Right, they're the ones sending money back home to build a house or put the nephews through college.
Exactly. They're seen as survivors, providing for their families. They aren't being viewed by themselves or by the church back home as deployed missionaries. And the report has this devastating quote, "Scattering without sending creates believers abroad, but not always witnesses on mission."
Oof, scattering without sending. That is a heavy distinction.
It is. I mean, just think about Tita Auntie working in Dubai. If she doesn't see herself as a missionary, what does she do?
She keeps her head down.
She keeps her head down, she works hard, she finds other Filipinos, and they form a little holy huddle to eat adobo and sing Tagalog worship songs and just survive the loneliness.
But she doesn't engage the locals.
She doesn't cross the cultural bridge to her Muslim neighbor or her Hindu coworker. She's there geographically, but she hasn't been sent spiritually.
So why aren't they being sent? Why is the church back home just letting this massive army sit in the barracks? This gets us to the section on the gaps, what's holding them back.
The first barrier is the most subtle one, comfort. The report warns that the greatest risk to a healthy church isn't decline, it's comfort. It contrasts the fire that warms the hearth with the fire that spreads. Because, let's be honest, local ministry in the Philippines is fun. The music's great, the community is warm, the food is amazing. Why would you want to leave that to go somewhere uncomfortable and lonely?
It's the curse of success. The fireplace is so nice, no one wants to go out in the cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also a fear of the other. The source notes that despite being incredibly friendly people, there's a hesitation to engage cross-culturally.
Even within the Philippines.
Yes. Even there, a hesitation to engage with Muslim neighbors in the South or distinct tribal groups. And that distance is often defended as prudence. We say, oh, I'm not called to that, or that's too dangerous, when really we're just prioritizing our own safety.
And there's a phrase in the report that addresses the leadership on this. Theology without trajectory.
Yes. Full house, empty map. You walk into a church, they might have a map of the world on the wall. They might even have a mission Sunday once a year with all the flags and costumes.
Right.
They know the Great Commission, the command to go into all the world, but the knowledge, it just stays devotional.
It's inspirational, not operational.
Perfect way to put it. It makes them feel good. Oh, look how big God is. But it doesn't result in a plane ticket. It doesn't result in a budget line item. It's treated like a metaphor for local evangelism instead of a literal command to go to the nations. They have the information, but they lack the trajectory.
So how do we fix this? How do you move from full house, empty map to actually getting boots on the ground? The report proposes a solution, and it centers on this Hebrew word, hineni.
Hineni, it's such a powerful concept. It means, here am I. It's what the prophet Isaiah said when God asked, who will go for us?
Okay.
And notice what Isaiah didn't say. He didn't say, here I am, let me just check my qualifications. He didn't say, here I am, but I don't have the funding. He just said, here I am.
It's about availability before ability.
That's it.
I love that. So practically, what are the actionable steps from the source? How does a church shift to this hineni posture?
The source outlines three main shifts. First, education. We have to stop treating mission as a department. You know, the little committee that meets in the basement once a month.
And gets 5 minutes at the end of the service, right? And also, please pray for the missionaries bit.
Exactly. The report argues mission has to be central to discipleship. You aren't a full disciple if you aren't orienting your life toward God's global mission. It's not an elective course, it's the core curriculum.
Okay, so change the teaching. What's step 2?
Mobilize the diaspora. This is the low-hanging fruit. The church back home needs to change the conversation with the OFWs instead of just praying for their safety and their finances, which are important, of course.
You commission them. So before the nurse leaves for Saudi, you bring her up on stage.
You bring her up, you lay hands on her, you say, you are not just going to work a job. You are going as an ambassador of Christ in a place we cannot go. And then, this is critical, you train them. You equip them. Here's how you share your faith in a restrictive context. Here's how you build bridges. You equip them for the spiritual job, not just the economic one.
That shifts their whole identity. Suddenly there's a purpose beyond the paycheck. And the third step?
Structure. You have to create systems to send people, not just hoard them.
Hoarding people. That's a convicting phrase for any pastor who wants to break an attendance record.
It is. But if your church is growing, your goal shouldn't just be to build a bigger auditorium. It should be to ask who is ready to go. It's moving from a gathering mindset to a scattering mindset. The report calls for a systemic change in how resources are allocated. Are we spending 95% of our budget on our own comfort? Or are we actually investing in the go?
It's the transformation of the Philippines from a mission field, a place that receives help, to a mission force, a place that sends help.
And if they do that, just think about those superpowers we talked about. Resilience, passion, relational warmth. If you unleash that on the world, especially in the global south, it is a game changer. The era of the Western missionary as the primary force is, in many ways, winding down.
And the Filipino missionary era could be just beginning.
It could be.
It's amazing to think about the potential just sitting in those pews every Sunday, waiting to be activated. Okay, as we wrap this up, the report leaves us with a question worth sitting with. And I think this is a question for every single listener, whether you're in Manila, Dubai, or Minneapolis.
The question is this. If the Filipino Church has been entrusted with spiritual vitality, cultural adaptability, and a global diaspora unlike any other, what might obedience look like if we fully embraced that trust?
That hits hard. It's about stewardship. It's not just look how blessed we are. It's what are we supposed to do with this blessing?
Exactly. We often think of blessing as comfort. But in the biblical sense, and in the context of this report, blessing is fuel. It's a resource. So the question for you is your faith a fireplace, keeping you warm and cozy while the world outside freezes?
Or is it a wildfire designed to jump the containment line and ignite something new in places that are currently cold and dark? That is the challenge. Are you a fireplace or a wildfire? We're going to leave you to mull that over. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.